My name is Thalia Kim, and my husband's family faked his death to get rid of me, then married him to a woman they had chosen 20 years earlier. I met Daniel Cho when I was 23, a first-generation Korean American working 2 jobs to pay for nursing school. He was 26, the youngest son of one of the most powerful chaebol families in Seoul, the Chos, who owned shipping lines, hotels, and a private art museum that was larger than most public ones. We met at a coffee shop in Manhattan, where he was studying for an MBA at Columbia, and I was trying to finish a shift without collapsing from exhaustion. He spilled his latte on my scrubs. I called him an idiot in Korean. He asked for my number. We were married within a year. His family was horrified, not because I was a nurse, not because I was poor, but because I was Korean American, which in their eyes meant I was neither fully Korean nor fully American, a creature without a country, a woman who could not possibly understand the obligations of a chaebol wife. Daniel's mother, Mrs. Cho, refused to attend the wedding. His father sent a letter disowning him. His older brothers, Jin and Sung, called Daniel a disgrace to the family name. Daniel did not care, or so he told me. He loved me, he said, and that was enough. For 3 years, we built a life in New York. Daniel finished his MBA and took a job at a hedge fund. I became a registered nurse working in the ICU at a downtown hospital. We lived in a small apartment in Hell's Kitchen, ate ramen on the fire escape, and talked about having children someday. I thought I was happy. I thought we were safe. I was wrong. The call came at 3 a.m. on a Saturday. Daniel's brother Jin, speaking in rapid, formal Korean. Daniel had been in a car accident in Seoul, a business trip, a drunk driver, a collision that had killed him instantly. The funeral would be held the following week. I was welcome to attend, but Jin's tone made it clear that welcome meant tolerated. I flew to Seoul in a daze. I had not met most of Daniel's family. The only one I had spoken to was his sister, Hana, who had secretly sent us wedding gifts for 3 years. Hana met me at the airport, her face pale, her eyes red. "Thalia," she said, hugging me so tightly I could barely breathe. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for all of it." The funeral was a spectacle. Hundreds of people in black, a Buddhist ceremony with chanting and incense, a photograph of Daniel that looked nothing like him. Too formal, too stiff, the smile wrong. The family kept me at a distance, seated in the back, introduced as a friend of Daniel's from America. I was not allowed to speak, not allowed to approach the altar, not allowed to touch the urn that supposedly held his ashes. I did not believe he was dead. I cannot explain why. There was no evidence, no logical reason for my suspicion. But standing in that funeral hall, surrounded by strangers who wore grief like a costume, I felt something shift in my chest. Not acceptance, but certainty. Daniel was alive, and the Cho family had hidden him from me. I spent the next 6 months investigating. I hired a private investigator in Seoul, a former police detective named Mr. Park, who had a reputation for discretion and a network of informants that stretched across the city. I gave him everything I knew: Daniel's schedule, the supposed location of the accident, the name of the hospital where he was allegedly pronounced dead. Mr. Park called me 3 months later. "There was no accident," he said. "No police report, no hospital record, no body. The Cho family staged everything. Your husband is alive. He is living in a house in the Gangnam district, under guard, and he is engaged to be married." The woman's name was Min Ji-soo, the daughter of another chaebol family, the Mats. The marriage had been arranged since Jisoo and Daniel were children, a merger of shipping lines and hotels, a consolidation of power that would make the Cho family one of the wealthiest in Asia. Daniel had been recalled to Seoul to fulfill the contract. I was the obstacle, so they had erased me. I flew to Seoul. I did not tell anyone I was coming. Mr. Park had given me the address of the house where Daniel was being held, a beautiful traditional hanok in a wealthy neighborhood surrounded by walls topped with security cameras. I waited across the street, in a rented car, for 3 days. On the 3rd day, I saw him. He was thinner than I remembered, his hair longer, his face carrying a weariness that had not been there before. He was walking in the garden, accompanied by 2 men in suits who stood at a respectful distance, guards, or handlers, or both. He looked up, and for a moment, his eyes met mine through the car window. He stopped walking. His mouth opened, and then one of the guards touched his elbow, guiding him back inside, and the moment was gone. I did not try to contact him directly. I knew that any attempt would be intercepted, that the family's reach was too long, that I would be deported or worse. Instead, I went to Hana. Daniel's sister lived in a small apartment in a less fashionable part of Seoul, estranged from the family after refusing an arranged marriage of her own. She was the only Cho who had ever shown me kindness, and I prayed that she would help me. She did. She told me everything. The engagement to Jisoo had been planned since Daniel was 10 years old. The contract was signed by both families, sealed with handshakes and promises, and the transfer of shares worth billions. When Daniel met me, when he chose me over the contract, he had not just broken his mother's heart, he had broken a business agreement that had taken decades to negotiate. The family had given him an ultimatum: end the marriage to me, or be disinherited completely. Daniel had refused, so they had taken more drastic measures. They faked his death to get rid of you, Hana said, her voice barely a whisper. They told him you had been paid off, that you had taken money to disappear, that you had never loved him. They showed him forged documents, a letter in your handwriting, a receipt for a wire transfer. He believed them. He believed them because he wanted to believe that you were safe, that you had moved on, that he was free to fulfill his duty without guilt. He's going to marry her, I said. It was not a question. Next month, at the Schiller Hotel, the whole world will be there. I sat in Hana's apartment, looking at the wedding invitation she had stolen from her mother's desk. Gold foil, thick paper, the names of the two families intertwined like a DNA helix. Daniel Cho and Min Jisoo, the marriage that would unite two empires. I had a choice. I could walk away, return to New York, rebuild my life as the widow of a man who was not dead. I could take the settlement that the Cho family would inevitably offer, a sum large enough to buy my silence, large enough to fund a comfortable future. I could choose safety, or I could burn everything down. I chose the fire. The plan took 6 weeks. I worked with Hana, with Mr. Park, with a journalist from the Korea Times who had been investigating the Cho family's business practices for years and was hungry for a story. I gathered evidence, the forged documents, the fake accident report, the testimony of a former Cho family employee who had helped stage the funeral. I recorded phone calls with Daniel's mother, pretending to be a journalist, listening while she contradicted herself and revealed details that only someone involved in the conspiracy would know. The night before the wedding, I released everything. The Korea Times ran a front-page exposé. Chaebol heir faked death to dump American wife. The story went viral within hours, not just in Korea, but internationally. CNN picked it up. The BBC. Every major news outlet in the world. The wedding was scheduled for 2 p.m. the next day. By 9 a.m., the Schiller Hotel had cancelled the reservation. By 11 a.m., the Min family had issued a statement calling off the engagement. By 1 p.m., Daniel's mother was holding a press conference, denying everything, her face a mask of brittle fury. I did not watch the press conference. I was at the house in Gangnam, standing outside the gates, waiting. The guards had been called away. The chaos of the exposé had stretched the family's resources thin, and for the first time in 6 months, the house was unguarded. I walked through the gate, up the path, and knocked on the front door. Daniel opened it. He looked terrible. Hollow-eyed, unshaven, wearing clothes that hung loosely on a frame that had lost too much weight. He stared at me for a long moment, and then he said my name in a voice that broke on the second syllable. Thalia. I'm not dead, I said. I was never paid off. I never stopped loving you. They lied. He fell to his knees. Right there, on the threshold of the house that had been his prison, he fell to his knees and wept. I knelt beside him, held him, and let him cry. The divorce from me, the legal, actual divorce that the Cho family had forged without my knowledge, was annulled within a month. The Korean courts, under immense public pressure, ruled that the family had committed fraud, perjury, and illegal confinement. Daniel's mother was charged with conspiracy. His brothers were investigated for their roles in the cover-up. The chaebol empire, already weakened by the scandal, began to crumble. Shareholders pulled out. Partners renegotiated contracts. The family that had tried to erase me was erased instead. Daniel and I returned to New York. He is in therapy now, learning to forgive himself for believing the lies. I am back in nursing, working in the same ICU where I started, saving lives one shift at a time. We do not have children yet. We are still learning to trust the ground beneath our feet. His family, what remains of it, does not speak to us. His mother is under house arrest, awaiting trial. His brothers have fled the country. Only Hannah remains, and she is coming to visit next month, her first trip to America. I am making kimchi jjigae for her arrival, the way my own mother taught me, the way Daniel's mother never would. My name is Thalia Kim. I was the wife the Chos tried to erase. But you cannot erase someone who refuses to disappear. You cannot fake the death of a love that is still alive. And you cannot build an empire on lies without eventually being buried beneath the rubble. Daniel and I are not rich. We are not powerful. We are not the kind of couple who appears in society pages or charity galas. We are two people who almost lost each other to greed and ambition, who found each other again through stubbornness and rage and the unwillingness to accept a false ending. Revenge, I have learned, is not about punishment. It is about restoration. It is about taking back the story that was stolen from you and telling it yourself, in your own words, without apology. The Cho family wanted me to be a ghost. Instead, I became a witness, and witnesses, in the end, are more dangerous than any ghost.